Three modes, gunas, which are goodness, sattva, passion, rajas, and dullness, tamas, born of nature, prakrti, bind down in the body, O mighty armed Arjun, the imperishable dweller in the body. Shri Krishna addresses Arjun as Mahabaho, meaning mighty armed. Having arms, Arjun has arms that stretch until one's knees, and this is a very, very fortunate quality to have. It is also in the case of Samudrika Shastra, which is a study of reading one's body, that having long arms is a fortunate quality for one to have. It is said about Sri Ramchandraji that Ajanu Bahu Dara Vakrata Netram, Sri Ramchandraji's hands would touch his knees. Everybody touches their knees when they sit down, but it's a very fortunate quality to be able to touch your knees while standing up. How many of you can do this? Shri Krishna tells Arjun that the three modes of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, are born of prakrti nature and bind down in the body the imperishable dweller in the body. The word avyayam is used, meaning imperishable. Vyavyam na vyati iti avyayam. The imperishable dweller in the body is the soul. Two clear things are said here that were begun when we saw Samkhya Yoga in the second chapter of the Gita. The words there, body, and dehi, the dweller in the body who is a soul, were used. We are the dehi, the dweller in the body who is a soul, and we reside in the body. These three modes of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, are born of prakrti nature and bind down in the body the imperishable dweller in the body. The soul is imperishable. The three modes of nature are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and dullness, tamas, and they are always in prakrti nature. When all three modes of nature are in an equal state, then there is no prakrti nature and there is no maya, illusion. This is when all three of them are equal and in an equal state. When the feelings of being the body come, and the three modes of nature that are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness begin increasing or reducing through permutations and combinations to reduce the equalness between all three of them, then it can be said that they are manifested from prakrti nature. It is an ideal situation when sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, are in an equal state. But when what happens is that through permutations and combinations, they keep increasing and reducing, and a result of this, feelings of being the body arises and inequality arises, so that, for example, one person has more of the mode of sattva, goodness, in them, another person has more of the mode of rajas, passion, in them, and another person has more of the mode of tamas, dullness, in them. When this inequality arises, then what happens, for example, is that the mode of sattva, goodness, increases in a person, and the mode of rajas, passion, decreases, and the mode of tamas, dullness, increases even more in the person. Sometimes one may have more of the mode of rajas, passion, in them, and in this case the mode of sattva, goodness, decreases, and the mode of tamas, dullness, is in the middle of in the person. God is going to describe all of this later in the chapter. Another person may have more of the mode of tamas, dullness, more in them, and less of the mode of rajas, passion, and even less of the mode of sattva, goodness. All of these three modes are in each and every person, but one or the other may not get manifested. When this happens, then inequality arises. At that time it is said that the three modes of nature that are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness become born of prakrti nature. And these three modes of nature that are born from prakrti nature bind one to the body. Then the question arises that the dweller in the body is the individual soul. The individual soul is a soul, so can one bind the soul? It is not possible to bind down the soul. Anura niyan mahato mahiyan. The soul is the subtlest of the subtle and greater than the great. How can one bind the soul? Shankaracharya says it very nicely that it appears as if the soul is being bound. Nibadnanti iva. It is an illusion that the individual soul that is the dweller in the body becomes bound as a result of the three modes of nature. God has clearly said that the dweller of the body is imperishable, so how can it become bound? Shankaracharya says that it appears as if the soul is becoming bound. Nibadnanti iva. There is a lake and the water is very calm. While the water in the lake is calm, the rays of the sun that is shining above, or the rays of the moon, get reflected in the water of the lake. A completely clear reflection can be seen. But if a person sitting by the shore of the lake picks up a stone and throws it into the water, and all the ripples are created, then the ripples that are created in the water lead to the reflection of the moon or the sun in the water, looking as if it has got ripples. By the reflection becoming rippled, the sun or the moon do not become rippled. Just rippled, and you look up and you see that the sun or the moon is just like it was before. The sun or the moon cannot possibly become rippled. It is impossible for the sun or the moon to become rippled, but while the smooth water in the lake became rippled, it appears as if the reflection in the lake is becoming rippled. In the same way, Supreme Brahman, who is the Supreme Soul, is the sun or the moon high above, and great Brahma is his prakrti nature, that is the lake. In this lake that is a reflection of the Supreme Brahman in the form of the individual soul, Mamai Vancho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, a fragment or fraction of my own self, becomes a living soul, eternal in the world of life. The individual soul is a reflection of the Supreme Brahman in the lake that is great Brahma and Prakriti nature. While Prakriti nature is calm and in an equal state, then during that time the reflection can be seen very nicely, and the individual soul and the Supreme Soul are one. But because of the inequality of the three modes of nature of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, in Prakriti nature, a state of tremors comes and ripples are created, so that the individual soul, that is a reflection of the sun or the moon, that is the Supreme Soul, gets rippled. But it appears like that. It seems like that, and we imagine that. The individual soul can never become rippled. When we stay in the lake of the material world, then it appears as if the soul and everything has become rippled. When this happens, then we should sit by the lake and watch the sun or the moon, so that we will become steady. In the same way, while staying in the lake of the material world, when it appears as if everything is running around on the inside, then if we go and sit in the reflection of the Supreme Soul, that is who we are. One can get this steadiness and this peace from the Supreme Soul, and not from anywhere else. You can never get peace from the material world. If the moon is shining, and we look for the shining moon in the water or somewhere else, for example on one side of the lake or on another side of the lake, then it won't make any difference if we change sides in a lake. We make this mistake over and over again, that when turbulence is created inside, and when it seems as if the thoughts are from the inside are running around, then we begin running around in the material world thinking, will I get peace here? Will I get peace there? Will I get peace in this place? This is the mistake that we're making, and we're making wasteful efforts. We should take our gaze a little upwards and look at the moon in the sky. We should take our gaze a little upwards and look at the Supreme Soul. We should drown in dhyan meditation. We should attain a oneness with God. The more we become steady with God, then we will be able to experience that the ripples inside are reducing slowly and slowly, and the reflection inside begins to become clearer. And this is only one way. If we try to look at it from another way apart from this, and only one thing will happen: the water in the lake will become more and more rippled, and the reflection will become more and more rippled. It's a very simple and straightforward rule that you cannot find the solution to a problem where the problem is, then you should go to a slightly higher level than it and find the solution there. You cannot find the solution of the problem from where the problem has occurred. You have to go to a higher level. In the same way, if the problem that has arisen is of the material world, then you will not be able to find a solution in the material world. People in society make this mistake over and over again. They keep looking for the solution from where the problem has arisen. One cannot find the solution there. They have to look a little upwards. And when this feeling of oneness arises, and this feeling of steadiness arises, then peace comes by itself. The three modes of nature that are born of Prakriti nature bind the dweller in the body to the body. We will now think a little more about this verse. The The rishis of the Shvetasvara Upanishad say that Mayanto Upanat Prakritim Vidyat Mahinantu Maheshwaram. Know that nature is illusion and that the great Lord is a Lord of illusion. This Maya illusion is a reason for the creation of the entire world. And because Maya illusion is a reason for creation of the whole world, it is a principle of Vedanta that the cause is always there in the creation. It is always going to stay there. The cause is always there in the creation. Clay is the cause and the pot is the creation. The cause is always there in the creation. Clay is always there in the pot. If the pot is made from clay, then the clay is always going to stay in the pot. There are two types of causes. There is a nimitta karan, the creator, and the upadan karan, the substance. Here, the clay is the upadan karan, the substance. It is always there and you cannot go without it. Because the world was created from Maya illusion, this means that the Maya illusion is always going to reside in the world. It is a cause and the cause always stays in the creation. Maya illusion always resides there in the world. If clothes are made from cotton, then the cotton is always there in the clothes. You cannot say that now the material has been made, we should take out the cotton. If clothes are made from cotton, then cotton is always going to stay in the clothes. The cotton is the upadan karan, the substance. In the same way, Maya illusion is the cause of the universe, and we discussed earlier that when the Supreme Soul resolves, then Maya illusion arises and there is a hustle and bustle in all of Prakriti nature. Therefore, Maya illusion is always going to stay there in the universe. Maya illusion also binds down the soul in the body. How does it bind down the soul? It binds down the soul as a result of the three modes of nature: sattva, goodness; rajas, passion; and tamas, dullness. It binds the soul. If I were to explain this by way of example, then when women tie a knot in their hair, they create three parts and put one part in another and then another part in another to tie the knot. If there were only two, then the knot is not made. Three are needed. In the same way, if you wish to tie a string into a knot, then you'll need to make three parts. If you do this, then the knot is made. The great thing about Sanskrit is that guna means quality and also knot or string in Sanskrit. How does guna, the knot, get tied? It is through the three parts of sattva, goodness; rajas, passion; and tamas, dullness, that the knot is tied. Whatever bondages arise, all arise as a result of these three. And Shankaranandji says that in the dharma and actions of the body, the feeling of me and mine are bondages. Tatra aham mana abhyas eva bandhaha. And Vedanta says that these bondages are myth. Ataha mithya bhuteva bandhaha. How is this? Great saints give a very nice example. There was a merchant who was travelling, having taken a whole fleet of 100 camels. He was walking and reached a town at the time of night. There was an inn there, and the merchant thought that he would stay there for the night and then he would carry on walking the next day. He had to tie the camels, and therefore he began tying one after another in the courtyard outside the town. He would tie a rope around the neck of the camel and then strike a nail on the other side of the rope against the ground. A noise would sound when he would strike the nail and the camel would get tied. He had tied 99 camels and he could not find a rope for the nail for the 100th camel. He must have forgotten them, or they must have been lost. The 100th camel just stood there like that. He thought about what he could do. He went inside the inn and asked the manager and if the manager had a rope and a nail. The manager said that he did not have either, so the merchant fell into worry. The manager asked him what happened, and the merchant said that he had tied 99 camels, but the 100th camel was yet to be tied. The manager told him that he did not need to tie it and said that you should just go there and play act. I do not have a rope and nail, but you should just pretend that you are tying the rope and strike the nail. The merchant had no other choice, and therefore he went to the camel and, just like the manager said, began pretending to tie a rope around the camel's neck and struck a nail against the other side of the rope against the ground. He did not have a nail, and therefore he struck the nail of the rope attached to the camel. The noise of striking the nail was loud, and the merchant then went and fell asleep at the inn at night. He woke up in the morning. They had to go ahead. He let the 99 camels loose and took out the nails attached to the rope that were tying to them. The camels began walking, and the 100th camel was not walking. The merchant made a lot of noise and hit the camel with a stick many times, telling the camel to walk, yet the camel would not walk. The merchant went inside the inn and told the manager he got into difficulty because the camel would not walk. The manager asked him whether he had untied the rope of this camel and whether he had taken out the nail. The merchant said, "What are you talking about? Where had I tied a rope? I had not even struck a nail. I had not even done anything in relation to the 100th camel." The manager told him, "Only you know that you did not tie the rope, and only you know that you did not strike the nail. The camel itself thinks that you have tied the rope and that you have struck the nail. Just like you play acted to tie the camel, you should play act to let loose the camel." When this merchant went to pretend to untie the rope and take out the nail, then the 100th camel began walking. Great saints say that our states are just like that of the 100th camel. Hemang Shah said that Jalya Javo Joho Do Bandan Kashu Nati. If you wish to carry on walking, then there are no bondages. People just believe that they have bondages. They have the same state as the 100th camel. That is why Vedantis say that these bondages are a myth. Ataha mitya bhuteva bandaha. These bondages are a myth. And even though the bondages of these three modes of nature is a myth, the being still gets stuck in a cycle of birth and death. It is a dream, as I spoke about earlier in this chapter. It is a characteristic of a dream that when the dream is running, then it seems as if it is real. This is the characteristic of a dream. It is only when the dream breaks that one realizes that it was a dream. While a dream is running, then it looks as if it is real. No matter if this material world is a myth, the sorrows that we feel as a result of the material world are true, right? We say that the material world is a myth, then it's nothing. But if someone comes up to us and says something to us, it is as if an arrow has struck our heart, and we feel as if that person has said this to me, I did not even want to enjoy my food for 3 days. All of this is true, right? A person does not consider another person to be a myth. A person does not say that everything that the other person is saying is a myth. These pains that one is getting appear to be true pains. When one gets tears in the eyes, then they appear to be true tears. When you go to a cinema to watch a film and an actor leaves the actress, then the tap of tears opens. Is this true, right? No matter if everything else is false there, these tears still seem true. That is why the true wish people have not made efforts to change the material world. They have made efforts to change the mind. This is because the film is going on over there, so how can people explain this to the actress? You will not be able to explain this to the actress. It has already been decided, and it is already like that the actor is going to leave the actress, and the actress is going to get sad. It is already determined. You cannot change that, but you can make changes in yourself. And this is dharma, this is sadhana, spiritual accomplishment, this is penance, and this is gnan, wisdom. There are two types of Maya illusion. God speaks here about Maya illusion being born of prakrti, nature, and Maya illusion is of two types. Vidya, knowledge, and avidya, ignorance. The rishis in the Isha Upanishad also describe it. Vidyancha, yastad vedo bhyansaha. Vishayadanya amrutyanti tuva avidya mrutyam titva vidyanam amrutam mashnute. He who simultaneously knows both knowledge and ignorance crosses beyond death through ignorance and attains immortality through knowledge. Vidya, knowledge, is a clean truth, and avidya, ignorance, is an unclean truth. Both of them are truths. Avidya, ignorance, is an unclean truth. It is an unclean truth because there is a difference in the intention. The intention of vidya, knowledge, is only to attain the Supreme Soul and only the attainment of the Lord, whereas the intention of avidya, ignorance, is the enjoyment of the material world because it is an attitude of collecting things. This is the difference between the two. Vidya, knowledge, is independent from the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance. It is the clean truth. It has neither the mode of rajas, passion, nor the mode of tamas, ignorance, but that in which the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance have come. No matter if they are pressed down on, this truth is an unclean truth that is called avidya, ignorance. The Maya illusion of clean truth has God as its intention, whereas because of this unclean truth, that is avidya, ignorance, an individual being is bound. As a result of this ignorance of one's own self, the being becomes subordinated by avidya, ignorance. He forgets who he is, and that is why he becomes subordinated by avidya, ignorance. That is why he goes into the unclean truth. In reality, what has happened is that because of the ignorance that has made one forget about one's own self, as God says in this verse, the three modes of nature bind the imperishable dweller inside the body down in the body. Because of this ignorance, that is the forgetting of one's own self, the being gets bound. The supreme truth attains the mortal truth. The question comes to us that if the soul is clean and has no defects, then what are all of these bondages in relation to? If the soul comes in the form of a being, then why does it fall into bondage? There is a reason for this. Vedantis explain it very nicely, that that which is born from something can give birth to an experience, to an appearance which covers that thing that it was born from. Let us try to understand this spirituality a little. That which is born from something makes efforts in order to cover that thing that it was born from. It gives birth to an appearance. An example is given of clouds. Clouds cover the sun. How big is the sun? The sun is extremely big. And how big is a cloud? A cloud is extremely small in comparison to the sun. How did this cloud become born? A cloud is extremely... how does this cloud get created? It gets created because of the sun. If the sun were not there, then the clouds would not form. This is because as a result of the heat of the sun, water evaporates and turns into steam, as a result of which the clouds are formed. The sun is the cause of the clouds, but the same cloud covers the sun. If you look at it one way, then the clouds have no power and are very small. A cloud cannot stand in front of the sun in comparison, but it covers it. It can create an appearance. In the same way, because of the existence of the soul, are born Maya, illusion, and its activities in the form of three modes of nature that are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness. But just in the same way that the clouds hide the sun, in the same way, because of the three modes of nature, avidya, ignorance, leads to egotism and mindness. As a consequence, the being falls into bondages. The soul became the jivatma, individual soul, and this jivatma, individual soul, fell into bondage. This is because it created both egotism and mindness with the body and fell into the cycle of birth and death. There is a difference between egotism and mindness. How does a relationship with the body become formed? The relationship with the body is formed in two ways. The first is a feeling of non-difference, and the second is a feeling of difference. By non-difference, I mean considering the body to be one's own self. This is a feeling of non-difference. As a consequence, one thinks that I am the body. Such is a feeling one gets. This is the feeling of non-difference, that I am the body. This feeling of non-difference arose. And the feeling of difference is thinking that the body is mine. This is the feeling of difference. Just like what I'm wearing is mine and different from me, if I have a feeling that the watch is mine and create such a relation, then this is the same as a feeling that the body is mine. No matter if the body is different, I still believe that it is mine. Therefore, one has a feeling of non-difference, that I am the body, and one also has a relationship of difference, that the body is mine. The feeling of I am the body is egotism, and the feeling of the body is mine is mineness. All of the thoughts that are there in the material world are the two categories of egotism and mineness. Egotism and mineness. If we go to any discourse and listen to great discourses, then people say that we should escape from egotism and mineness. People then begin scratching their heads thinking, what is this egotism and what is this mineness, and how can we become free from them? Egotism is a very simple thing, the feeling that I am the body. This is egotism, and the feeling that the body is mine is mineness. Whenever you keep attaching the feeling that I am this, I am this, I am this, then the more that your egotism grows. The simple and straightforward meaning of the word aham in ahamkar egotism is me. Aham means me in Sanskrit. With whatever things you keep putting me with, all of these things are your egotism. And with whatever things you keep putting mine, with all of these things are your minus. The word mama in mamata, minus, means mine. Mama means mine in Sanskrit. And while you have this egotism and minus, the three modes will remain. You cannot escape. There is no escape. The modes of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, are going to come. After marriage, in the old times, the husband used to bring the wife into the house. Before, when they were not married, there was no relationship, they had not even had the engagement, and they did not even know each other. They had no feelings or anything towards each other. But after getting married, the husband would bring the wife into the house and he would decide that she is my wife. He would get tied to her when they give their hands to each other. He decided that she is my wife and I'm a husband. This egotism and minus arose, and what then happened is that he considered everything belonging to her to be his. Not only that, but all her necessities began to feel like his necessities. The wife wants a dress that he goes to buy because she wants it. Does he want it? He does not want it. But her necessities became his necessities. She wants jewelry and not him, but her necessities became his necessities. This is because she became his. Whenever one has given rise to this egotism and this minus, one considers their necessities to be one's own necessities. In the same way, one thinks that this body is mine. Who wants the food? Do you want the food? No, the body wants the food. But the person thinks that I want to eat. Just see that when we took the example of the wife, then the matter becomes clearer. If I only talked about the body, then perhaps the matter may seem distant. If I do not want the food, the body wants the food. This is because the body was not there, I was not there. When I was eating, then even when I came into this body and I was in my mother's womb, then what was I eating then? At the time of being born, what was I eating? After drinking a little milk, I was content. And if the milk was not right, then I would immediately take it out. While breastfeeding, the woman needs to hold the head towards it sometimes to make sure that the milk is digested. When the same body becomes at the age of 60, 70 or 80, then one will not be able to digest it. It will not become digested. All of this food is needed by the body. I do not need it. But while I have tied a relationship of egotism or minus with it, what happens is that I think that I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to do the first thing. The necessities of the body begin to feel like one's own necessities. And another thing happens from this, that by tying a relationship with a temporary body, one gets a wish of making temporary the eternal. This is because if I'm the body, and if the body is mine, then it should always remain with me. It is temporary, and it has come with a stamp of an expiry date. It is temporary, and yet one thinks that the body should stay, the body should stay, and the body should stay. I know that the body is not going to stay. A young child is eating bubble gum and blows it into a balloon. When the bubble begins to grow, then the child knows that it's going to burst, but the child wishes to make the balloon as big as possible. He keeps making efforts again and again to make the balloon big. And the bigger that the balloon gets, that the more he goes to show this to people, that look, I've made a big balloon. The bigger you make the balloon, then the more likely it is going to burst. The bigger you're trying to make the balloon, the closer you are to making that balloon burst. And yet one thinks that it should stay that way and it should keep getting bigger. What childishness is this? One keeps making efforts to make the balloon bigger and bigger. In the same childish way, we keep making efforts to make this balloon in the form of the body bigger and bigger in name because we wish that it will remain eternal. It is not going to stay eternal. One is putting in efforts to make the body eternal and has a deep misunderstanding that this body is going to remain eternal. Therefore, what happens psychologically is that a fear of death has arisen in this person. Why does one have a fear of death? The reason for this is that we have a realization that we are eternal in the form of the soul. We may not think it, but it's in us. It's an inbuilt process that I am the eternal soul. I am eternal and I am considering the body to be mine. Therefore, I wish to keep it eternal, and it is not going to stay eternal. Will it go? yes, it will go, and that is why one has a fear of it going away. This means that while one has a wish to make the body eternal, and while one has a fear of death, during that time one has bondage to the three modes of nature, and during that time one has bondage to Maya illusion. This is Maya illusion that binds the being. Shri Krishna says it very nicely that the three modes of nature bind down in the body the imperishable dweller in the body. The body is perishable, and the dweller in the body is imperishable and indestructible. The imperishable has tied a relation with the perishable and is making efforts to make the perishable imperishable, in which one fails. That is why he is bound. The modes of nature are three tendencies of prakrti, nature. Who's feeling a bit hot here? Okay. The modes are the three tendencies of prakrti, nature. Modes means tendencies. The modes of nature are the means through which prakrti, nature, becomes manifest. There have been very nice translations of gunas, for example, modes. They are the means through which, well done Meera, they are the means through which prakrti, nature, became manifest. Prakrti, nature, can manifest in different ways. Sometimes prakrti can be manifest as sattva, goodness. Sometimes it can be manifest as rajas, passion, and sometimes it can be manifest as tamas, dullness. Great saints give us a very nice example. The great thing is that even modern thinkers give this example in their own way, but the example is very ancient. You will see how all three of the modes work. There's a woman who is extremely beautiful. Now let us say that this beautiful woman is the wife of Chaggan Lal. Chaggan Lal gets happiness that such a beautiful woman is my wife. He gets pride as a result of this. I'm using a woman as an example. This woman, who is a reason for happiness for Chaggan Lal, this same woman is a reason for unhappiness for their neighbour, Magan Lal. Magan Lal thinks that Chaggan Lal has such a beautiful wife. This is the same woman. This is because the neighbour, Magan Lal, keeps sitting there thinking, what is the difference between me and Chaggan Lal? We're both born around the same time, and the difference is only of 4 to 6 months between us. We both went to the same school, we both live in the same road and in the same neighbourhood, yet he has such a beautiful wife and I do not. The same woman who was a reason for happiness for Chaggan Lal, the same beautiful woman, became a reason for unhappiness for Magan Lal. Magan Lal gets a lot of sorrows, but for Magan Lal cannot do anything about it. He wants to live in the neighbourhood, so what further can he do? He keeps getting unhappier and unhappier inside. Then there is a third person who is Akacha Lal. He is looking at this woman and he thinks that, oh, this woman is beautiful, and such a delusion and such an attraction arises for Kacha Lal. He cannot go without it, and he goes straight and holds her hand, telling her, come with me, I will not be able to live without you, you are so beautiful. Now think that there is just one woman. She became a reason for happiness for one person, a reason for unhappiness for the second person, and a reason for delusion for the third person. I'm not meaning it as object, I'm saying it as object for the example. The object is one, the item is one, but it becomes a reason for happiness for one person, a reason for unhappiness for the second person, and a reason for delusion for the third person. The Supreme Soul is beyond all three of these, and the reason for this is that the Supreme Soul is beyond Prakrti nature. While a person stays within the sphere of Prakrti nature, and while a person stays within the limits of Prakrti nature, then he even gets happiness, unhappiness, or delusion. And delusion is a very fluid state. Delusion cannot remain delusion for very long. Delusion cannot also become can also become transformed into happiness, or delusion can be transformed into unhappiness. Delusion is like a star. It cannot last, and it has to go somewhere. If delusion becomes successful in attaining something, then delusion becomes happiness. Let us say that Kacha Lal goes and holds this woman's hand, and this woman says, wow, this is very nice, I have been waiting for you. Then Kacha Lal became happy. But if this woman picked up her hand and slapped him, then Kacha Lal would become unhappy. Delusion itself cannot last for very long. delusion either becomes transformed into happiness or delusion becomes transformed into unhappiness. But this object can give one of three things. It can give happiness, it can give unhappiness, or it can give delusion. An object is either a giver of happiness, a giver of unhappiness, or delusionary. These three perspectives of looking at objects, the universe or the material world, are as follows. Chaganlal is sattvic, good, because he has a beautiful life and a wife, and he gets happiness and bliss as a result of this in the material world. This is a mode of sattva, goodness. If I give this example in terms of a flower, then a sattvic good person takes in the smell of a flower, but from far away and from where he's passing by, gets the smell of a nice flower and gets happiness as a result of this and walks on. He does not touch the flower onto his nose. A sattvic good person is like this. Here, this is a respect to the flowerness of the flower, and this is the mode of sattva, goodness. What the mode of rajas, passion, does to the person is that as soon as he sees the flower, then he likes it, then he immediately goes and breaks it and brings the flower to his nose, or breaks the entire stem and brings the flower to his nose. This is a person with the mode of rajas, passion. This is an insult to the flowerness of the flower. There is certainly an attraction towards the flower. This is a person with the mode of rajas, passion. And a person with the mode of tamas, dullness, does not have contentment while he breaks the flower. He completely presses down on the flower, thinking about where the juice in the flower is, what will happen, and what smell will come out of the flower. This is a person from the mode of tamas, dullness. How can one do this to the flower? He does not just stop the use of the flower, he makes efforts to become the owner of the flower and makes efforts to enjoy the flower. This is a person with the mode of tamas, dullness. Many times when I go to a yajna, wherever there's a yajna at someone's house, where I've been given an invitation and have time, I go. You will all may have seen that whenever a yajna takes place in society, then in the closing ceremony, a coconut is offered. Then the Brahmin performing the yajna often puts a whole garland around the coconut or places roses on the coconut. Then they give it into your hands, chant the mantras, and then they say swaha. When these roses go into the fire, then I feel that, why are they going into the fire? I cannot see that. When Brahmins with me are performing yajna, then I tell them not to do this. If one has to place roses on the coconut, then they should place roses on the coconut. Tell me where it is written in a scripture that we should put the roses in the fire. Such beautiful, nice flowers have been pressed on and have been burnt. Then ghee, clarified butter, is put into the fire to ignite the burning. How can one see this? But when this is there, then consider that they have the mode of tamas, dullness. They do not even have any feelings or sensitivity in their hearts. This is the mode of tamas, dullness. These three ways to look at the world, the mode of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness. The mode of sattva, goodness, is a light of consciousness. It has the quality of radiance. God is going to say in the next verse that prakarshanam, it causes illumination. The mode of rajas, passion, is an outward movement, it is an activity, and it is passion. This is the mode of rajas, passion. And the mode of tamas, dullness, is inertia, inactivity, darkness, and heedless indifference. If you wish to show the differences between the three in a tabular form, then there are 5 differences between them, and I'll explain them. So draw a table with 3 columns. 3 columns and 6 rows in the column. 3 columns and 6 rows. The first column on the left should be headed mode of sattva, goodness. It's spelt in a verse. Mode of sattva, goodness. This is the first column. The second column, mode of rajas, passion. And the third column is headed mode of tamas, delusion, dullness. So, in the first column, the first type of difference, for the mode of sattva, it contributes to and maintains the stability of the universe. It contributes to and maintains the stability of the universe. The mode of rajas, passion, contributes to the origin and the activity of the universe. The mode of tamas, dullness, contributes to the decay and dissolution of the universe. Next row. Mode of sattva, goodness, is Lord Vishnu, the maintenance. The mode of rajas, passion, is Lord Brahma, creation. The mode of tamas, dullness, is Lord Shiva, dissolution. Third row. The mode of sattva, goodness, is divinity. The mode of rajas, passion, is humanness. And the mode of tamas, dullness, is animalness or demoness. Fourth row. The mode of sattva, goodness, is continuing to perform good deeds towards the other, even when the other is performing wrong deeds towards one. The mode of rajas, passion, is performing good deeds towards the other when the other is performing good deeds towards one, and performing wrong deeds towards the other when the other is performing wrong deeds towards one. Tit for tat, eye for an eye, and tooth for a tooth. For mode of tamas, dullness, is performing wrong deeds towards others even when others are performing good deeds towards one, and the attitude that no matter how many good things you do to me, I am like this. Fourth row. Mode of sattva, goodness, is frictionless motion. The mode of rajas, passion, is gravitation, and the mode of tamas, dullness, is inertia. Final row, the fifth row. The mode of sattva, goodness, in an atom is a proton. The mode of rajas, passion, in an atom is the electron. And the mode of tamas, dullness, in an atom is the neutron. Protons, sattva, electrons, rajas, neutrons, tamas. After reading the first row, you probably knew where I was coming to the three modes of nature represented by each of the three murti, the three forms of God, who are Lord Vishnu, maintenance, Lord Brahma, creation, and Lord Shiva, dissolution. And all three are necessary. One should definitely not take the meaning of this is that Lord Vishnu is above, Lord Brahma is in the middle, and Lord Shiva is below, because Lord Vishnu represents the mode of sattva, Lord Brahma represents the mode of tamas, rajas, and Lord Shiva represents the mode of tamas. No, all three are necessary. If Shivji did not perform this dissolution, then it would be a difficult burden to maintain the world. I often say, just as necessary as living and being born, just as necessary is it that one dies. This is because if after getting born a person keeps living and never dies, then the people coming into the world will have difficulties and it will become a burden to maintain the world. Each and every house will no longer remain a house and will become a museum. If you enter into any house, then all you will see would be old people and old people. Forgive me, but each house would be filled with old people. And if you ask the people in the house who the person is sitting with them in a far corner, then they'll scratch their heads and say, if I'm not forgetting, then it's perhaps my grandfather from 23 generations ago. Nobody would ever die. It would become a difficult burden to maintain the world. Therefore, the form of Shiva is necessary, and the form of dullness is necessary. The fifth row shows the scientific difference between the three. Sattva, goodness, is frictionless motion. Scientists say that whenever any object goes into space, wherever there is no more gravitation of Earth, then the object keeps moving and unmoving. This is the mode of sattva, goodness, where one is going at their own motion and there is a state of peace and naturalness. This is a mode of sattva, goodness. The mode of rajas, passion, is gravitation. It pulls one. A fruit falls off a tree and comes towards the earth. This is the mode of rajas, passion. And the mode of tamas, dullness, is inertia. It is just lying there. This is when matter stays in the same place. Rocks and stones have been falling by the banks of rivers for years. Right from when I was born, rocks and stones have been lying next to Finchley Road in London, and if we were to go there now, then they'll be the same as if they were before. If you go to Marine Drive in Mumbai, then the rocks that were there 50 years ago may still be there now. It remains just the way it was. This is the mode of tamas, dullness. The that was the fourth row. The fifth row also shows the scientific qualities of all three. Protons are the mode of sattva, goodness. This is because protons have power, they have a charge, and they are steady in the center, that is the nucleus. Electrons are made of the mode of rajas, passion. They're constantly moving around in circles. And neutrons are the mode of tamas, dullness. They have no charge and have nothing in them. They are just steady and remain there. Many times people get confused between the mode of sattva, goodness, and the mode of tamas, dullness. People think that the mode of tamas, dullness just lies there, and that the mode of sattva, goodness, is also at peace. Remember that one difference between the two is that the mode of tamas, dullness is just lying there, and the mode of sattva, goodness, is at peace. Yasya mudata loke, yasya buddhe parangataha. Many times both of them appear to be the same. Whatever food you give to a great personality, the great personality would just eat that and would have no complaints. And whatever food you give to a mad person, the mad person will just keep that and will never have any complaints. Whether the fruit is sweet or not, it will not make any difference to the great personality, and it will not make any difference to the mad person. Whatever clothes you give to a great personality, the great personality will wear them. If there is something wrong with the clothes, for example they're torn, it will not matter to the great personality, and the great personality will tolerate this. The great personality will not complain a lot. And whatever you give to a mad person, the mad person will wear it and will not complain a lot. Whether you tell the great personality to sleep, the great personality will sleep there and he won't complain about it. And if you tell a mad person to just lie there, then the mad person will just lie there throughout the entire night and will not complain about it. When they are both sleeping, then they both look the same, but when they wake up, then you realize who the mad person is and who the great personality is. This is because when the great personality wakes up, then he immediately goes into a state of meditation, and when the mad person immediately gets up, he keeps making noise and runs towards the station. When they wake up, then you realize that many times the world makes a mistake in differentiating between a mad person and a great personality. This is because neither have any demands, have nothing at all, and have no complaints. They are having fun in their own tune. A lot of mistakes have been made in society. People have considered many great personalities to be madmen. The great personality benefits from this because the more people will go from him, then the more peace he gets. But it's a detriment to society. And on the other hand, society makes the mistake of considering madmen to be great souls. Even in this, the mad person benefits, and it's a detriment to society. It has happened towards both these types of people. These differences between the three modes of nature are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness. These are the three modes of nature. In the first verse, God gave a pre-introduction to the three modes of nature and what they do by saying that they bind down in the body, the dweller inside the body. How do they bind down the dweller inside the body? God explains this in the 6th, 7th, and 8th verses. In the 6th verses, God explains how the mode of sattva, goodness, binds a person. In the 7th verse, God explains how the mode of sattva, passion, binds a person. And in the 8th verse, God explains how the modes of tamas, dullness, binds a person. We will look at the 6th verse, the next verse, in the next class. Okay, so that